Well, good Sunday morning to everybody. Wow, a bit cloudy with kind of a. You can tell that there's refreshment coming. Don't know when, but it's coming. Look at the sky. We're going to get some rain. We'll see what that does to our humidity. So we're continuing to read through Hosea. This is the second half. So it's chapters 8 to 14. And there's some things that Hosea mentions in here, and I just want to remind you that a lot of this is judgment against Israel. It's warning Israel of the consequences that are coming in for centuries of misbehavior and wrong relationship. And you remember it goes all the way back to Jeroboam when the kingdom was split, and he was given more than half the kingdom. Judah remained with the throne of David, but the rest all went with Jeroboam. And Jeroboam was just supposed to carry on in the Lord, because this was the Lord's dealing with. But Jeroboam didn't have a great relationship with the Lord, so he became insecure, and he was concerned about the Israelites going to worship in Jerusalem, that he would eventually be overthrown and the kingdoms united again. So he doubled down on Aaron's sin, and instead of one calf, he formed two calves in two different locations and said, these are the gods that rescued you from Egypt, and replaced Yahweh with the idols. And Israel, from that point on, was a downward spiral, and it got really bad to the point now where they're going to be dispersed among the nations. And Hosea says, he refers to them as first of all, as wind, and you know that with wind, you can't build anything on wind. You can't build a house. You can't do anything solid on wind. There are some good aspects of wind, but there was none of those aspects were being what was put forward here. Wind has no substance. You can't build anything on it or with it. You can harness the power of wind, sure, and there's lots of positive things that we do with wind, and wind also changes seasons and cleans things out. But we're not referring to that. We're talking about the fact that there's no substance to it. It's here and it's gone. And he says because they basically seeded with wind, or planted with wind, or created with wind, it's a whirlwind that was going to destroy them. And then later on he refers to smoke, that they're just smoke, and you know that smoke gets dispersed. Again, there's nothing to smoke. Smoke is blown away and dispersed, and that's what Israel was about to become. It was about to be dispersed. There's no substance to it. It's just destroyed. And this was because they didn't base everything on their relationship with Yahweh. This was a big problem, that because it wasn't based on Yahweh, it had no substance, there was nothing to it. They could not last as a nation because they didn't build it upon the only one they could build it on. This brings us to today, and we've been told again and again, it's shown to us again and again, that we absolutely have to build everything on love, God's love. Everything is based on love. Jesus told us the two greatest commandments is love God and love people. That's basically what it comes down to. And if we build anything, if we try to do anything that's not based on those, if that's not our motivation, then it's like building with the wind or smoke. We're just smoke. It's easily going to be dispersed. Whatever we create is going to be destroyed. It's going to be gone. Paul says that if I do anything outside of love, then it is nothing. I've achieved nothing, and I am nothing. is what he's really saying. And he's speaking spiritual gifts here. He's speaking things that are important. He's talking about miracles. He's talking about signs and wonders. He's talking about good works. He's talking about all this stuff. And he says it has no substance if the motivation is not love. And we can do a lot of stuff. We can build kingdoms. We can do all kinds of things. And we may not think that we may think everything's being based on God. It might be based on the idea of God. We may think we have no idols, but what is it that provokes fear the most in us? Is it a lack of money? Is it not being able to pay our bills? Does that lack of money provoke fear? The only thing that we should really fear is not, is when we realize that we have not developed a prayer life, when we don't have time for prayer, when we don't have time for worship, when we don't have time for fellowship. These things should be our fear. Cast me not from your presence, O Lord. Take not your Holy Spirit from me. That should be our first concern above everything else. Nothing else should provoke fear in us. Because if it provokes fear in us, we're denying God. We're denying who He is. He's the great provider. He's promised to look after us. And so what we're saying is that we don't trust Him. And when we don't trust God, then everything that we're doing is really based on the wind and smoke. It has no substance. Because then what we're saying is that, hey, I can only trust me. I'm going to build it on me. And anything that you build on yourself is going to be lost. Totally lost. No substance, no eternal purpose to it whatsoever. So I pray that we're not that. I pray that we're not that. I pray that our life is not smoke. It's not wind. I pray that whatever we seed from our lives is seeded in truth, and seeded from the motivation of love, the power of love. God's love, not our love, God's love. That overwhelming love, that love that changes everything, that love that shapes everything. So it's a good, honest, wake up thing that we read in Hosea today. We may think we're okay, but if we can't honestly say that love is our motivation, God's love is our motivation in everything that we do, then I think we're in trouble. So, in saying that, man, sometimes these things end on down notes, don't they? In saying that, let's get together today. Check our hearts, check ourselves, know who we are, seek after Him, absolutely love Him, adore Him, worship Him, and just go for it. Just go for everything that Jesus taught us, because what He taught us is the truth, and we want to base our life on that truth. So, I'm looking forward to seeing you all shortly. God bless.